The most profound realization a human being can have is that the world does not respond to what you say, but to who you are being. We have been conditioned to believe that life is a series of intellectual battles, that if we can only assemble the right facts, use the most persuasive logic, or exert enough vocal dominance, we can control the outcome of our lives. But this is a surface-level illusion. Beneath every conversation, every negotiation, and every confrontation, there is a silent, invisible current moving between people. This current is your energy. It is the frequency you broadcast from the core of your being, and it is the single most important factor in determining how any conflict begins, unfolds, and concludes. Energy is not a vague or mystical concept. It is a biological and psychological reality. When you walk into a room, your nervous system is already communicating with the nervous systems of everyone else present. We have all experienced this. You have met people who are nice on the surface, but whose energy feels heavy, untrustworthy, or jagged. Conversely, you have met people who say very little, yet their presence feels like an anchor in a storm. In a state of conflict, these energetic signatures are amplified. Conflict is essentially a collision of mismatched frequencies. If you enter a disagreement with the energy of combat, you are essentially sending out a signal that demands a counterattack. You are inviting the other person to arm themselves. The reason your energy decides the conflict is that energy is contagious. In physics, there is a principle known as entrainment, where two vibrating bodies will eventually synchronize their frequencies. In human terms, the person with the most stable and certain energy will always pull the other person into their vibe. If your energy is rooted in fear, insecurity, or a desperate need to be right, you are on a shaky foundation. The other person's anger will easily topple you, and soon you are both drowning in a sea of reactivity. But if your energy is grounded in an unshakable sense of self and a commitment to peace, you become the dominant frequency. You don't have to fight to win, you simply have to remain consistent until the other person's chaos has no choice but to settle in your presence. Most of us live our lives as reactors. We wait to see how the other person is going to act before we decide how we are going to feel. If they are rude, we get defensive. If they are aggressive, we get angry. In doing this, we are giving away our energetic sovereignty. We are letting the conflict decide our state of being. To master your life, you must reverse this. You must decide your energy before you ever step into the arena. You must cultivate a state of internal weather that is independent of the external climate. When you own your energy, you realize that no one can make you angry without your energetic consent. This realization is the beginning of true power. Consider the energy of the victim versus the creator. A victim enters a conflict looking for blame. Their energy is contracted, defensive, and small. They are constantly looking for how they are being wronged. This energy actually attracts aggressors because it leaves a vacuum of power that others feel compelled to fill. The creator, however, enters a conflict looking for a solution. Their energy is expansive and forward-leaning. They don't ask, "Why is this happening to me?" but "How am I going to use this?" This shift in energy changes the biology of the brain. It moves you from the amygdala, the part of the brain responsible for fight or flight, to the prefrontal cortex, the seat of wisdom and strategy. You cannot solve a problem with the same energy that created it. To resolve a conflict, you must be energetically above it. To understand why your energy is the ultimate arbiter of conflict, you must understand the roles we subconsciously adopt the moment tension arises. Most human disputes are scripted dramas. There is an aggressor, a victim, and a rescuer. Each of these roles carries a specific, low-vibration energy that feeds off the others. The aggressor needs someone to dominate. The The victim needs someone to blame. The rescuer needs someone to fix. If you enter a conflict in any of these roles, you have already lost because you are playing a game designed to keep the conflict alive. To decide the outcome, you must step out of the script entirely. This is the energy of the neutral observer. When you embody the observer, your energy becomes a mirror rather than a sponge. A sponge absorbs the toxicity of the other person. A mirror simply reflects it back to them. When someone yells at a mirror, they eventually become exhausted by their own reflection. By remaining energetically neutral, you force the other person to confront their own behavior. This is not a passive act. It is the most active form of psychological warfare. It requires a level of internal discipline that most people never develop. It is the ability to feel the heat of someone's anger and refuse to let it ignite your own fuse. When you don't provide the fuel of reaction, the fire of conflict has nowhere to go. This leads us to the concept of energetic non-resistance. We have been taught that to win, we must push back. But in the realm of energy, pushing creates resistance, and resistance creates persistence. The more you fight a specific energy, the more you anchor yourself to it. Think of the martial art of Aikido. The practitioner does not meet force with force. If an opponent lunges, the practitioner moves with them, using the opponent's own momentum to redirect them to the ground. In a verbal or emotional conflict, you do the same. If someone attacks your character, instead of defending, which is a defensive weak energy, you lean into it with curiosity. You ask, "Tell me more about why you feel that way." This shift in energy is jarring to an opponent. They expected a wall to hit. Instead, they found an open door. By refusing to resist, you dissolve the conflict's foundation. We must also look at the bioenergetics of the conflict state. Your body is a chemical factory. When you are in a conflict, you are likely bathing your cells in stress chemistry. This chemistry makes you rigid. It makes your voice go up in pitch and your body language become closed. This is the energy of scarcity. You feel that if you don't win this moment, you will lose your status, your safety, or your self-worth. But a person who understands their own energetic value operates from an energy of abundance. They know that their worth is not on the table. This person can afford to be kind. They can afford to listen. They can afford to wait. This high-status energy is not about arrogance. It is about a quiet confidence that radiates from the inside out. It signals to everyone involved that you are the one in control of the room because you are the one in control of yourself. Furthermore, we must address the vibration of intent. Before you speak, ask yourself, what is the intent behind my words? If your intent is to punish, to shame, or to belittle, your energy will be sharp and jagged. Even if you say the right things, the other person will feel the sting of your intent and will react accordingly. However, if your intent is truly to resolve, to understand, or to protect a boundary with love, your energy will be smooth and firm. People react to the intent, not the content. You can say a very hard truth to someone if your energy is rooted in their growth. Conversely, you can say a compliment that feels like an insult if your energy is rooted in sarcasm or resentment. Your intent is the flavor of your energy, and it determines whether your words are medicine or poison. One of the most misunderstood tools in the arsenal of energetic conflict resolution is the power of silence. In a world that equates noise with power, we often feel the need to fill every gap in a conversation with justifications, defenses, or counterattacks. However, silence is not a void. It is a dense, heavy, and highly intentional energy. When you use silence correctly, you are exerting a form of energetic gravity. By refusing to speak, you force the other person to encounter their own energy without the distraction of your reaction. In a negotiation or a heated argument, The person who is comfortable with silence is almost always the one in control. Silence signals that you are not desperate, you are not afraid, and you are not easily moved. It creates a pressure that often compels the other person to reveal their true intentions or to back down from an irrational position. This leads directly into the law of the vacuum. Nature abhors a vacuum, and so does human psychology. When a conflict reaches a fever pitch, there is often a chaotic dispersal of energy, people shouting, pointing fingers, and scattering their focus. If you can remain still and quiet, you create an energetic vacuum. You become the calm center that the chaotic energy is eventually drawn toward. Just as water flows to the lowest point, the emotional energy of a room will eventually flow toward the person who is the most grounded. By maintaining your frequency, you pull the other person out of their reactive state and into your field of stability. You don't have to convince them to be calm. Your very presence demands it of them. This is how leaders stabilize failing companies, or how parents settle a crying child. It is not about what they do. It is about the space they hold. In professional environments, this is often seen as executive presence. A leader with high vibration energy doesn't need to micromanage or use threats to get results. They use the energy of certainty. Certainty is one of the most powerful frequencies a human can hold. When you are 100% certain of your path, your value, and your vision, your energy becomes impenetrable. In a conflict with a difficult client or a rebellious employee, your certainty acts as a boundary. It tells the other person, you can fluctuate, you can complain, and you can resist, but you cannot move me from my position. This isn't about being stubborn, it's about being anchored. When you are anchored, others feel safe. Paradoxically, the very people who were fighting you will often begin to align with you because they are subconsciously searching for the stability that you represent. However, to maintain this frequency in high-stakes environments, you must manage your energetic leakage. Every time you engage in petty gossip, every time you let a minor inconvenience ruin your mood, and every time you seek validation from people you don't even respect, you are leaking the energy you need for the big battles. You cannot be a lion in the boardroom if you are a sheep in your private life. Energetic sovereignty is a 24/7 practice. It means being ruthless about what you allow into your field. If you spend your morning consuming fear-based news or arguing on social media, you have already depleted your peace reserves before you've even started your day. Your energy in a conflict is the result of your habits in the quiet moments. You build your armor when there is no war, so that when the war comes, you are already protected. Finally, we must understand the energy of the long game. Many conflicts are won by the person who can simply outlast the other energetically. Anger is a high-burn fuel. It consumes itself quickly. Resentment is a heavy fuel. It slows the person down. But peace and purpose are sustainable fuels. If you can remain in a state of calm, purposeful energy, you will simply outlive the opposition. The person who is acting out of rage will eventually make a mistake. They will overreach, they will exhaust themselves, or they will lose the support of those around them. By simply maintaining your frequency and refusing to be drawn down into the mud, you win by default. The conflict ends not because you defeated them, but because their low vibration energy reached its natural conclusion, while your high vibration energy remained as strong as ever. To reach the pinnacle of energetic mastery, you must address the energetic blueprint that lies beneath your conscious mind. This blueprint is the sum of your past experiences, your inherited beliefs, and your habitual emotional responses. If your blueprint is wired for struggle, you will subconsciously seek out conflict to validate your internal state. You will find yourself in the same arguments with different people, wondering why the world feels like a battlefield. The truth is that your energy is acting as a homing beacon for specific types of discord. To change the conflict out there, you must rewrite the blueprint in here. This requires you to look at your shadow energy, the parts of yourself that you have suppressed or judged. When you are at war with yourself, the world has no choice but to reflect that war back to you. The most potent way to rewrite this blueprint is through the process of energetic transmutation. Transmutation is the act of taking a low vibration energy, like resentment or anger, and turning it into a high vibration fuel, like drive or compassion. Resentment is perhaps the most toxic energy a human can carry into a conflict. It is a slow-acting poison that clouds your vision and makes your energy sticky. When you carry resentment, you aren't fighting for a solution, you are fighting for revenge. This energy is transparent to everyone but you. To transmute it, you must move into the energy of radical responsibility. You must realize that every conflict you are in is there to teach you something about your own boundaries, your own desires, or your own limitations. When you stop seeing the other person as an enemy and start seeing them as a difficult teacher, the energy of resentment dissolves into the energy of growth. This leads us to the ultimate secret of conflict resolution, the energy of the heart. This is not about being nice or soft. The heart's energy is the most powerful electromagnetic force in the human body. When you approach a conflict from the heart, you are operating from a state of coherence. Coherence is when your heart, mind, and nervous system are all working in harmony. In this state, your intuition is heightened. You can feel the other person's unspoken fears. You can see the path to resolution that logic alone cannot find. Heart-centered energy is invincible because it doesn't need to win. It is already whole. When you are already whole, the outcome of the conflict doesn't define you. This detachment is what gives you the ultimate advantage. You are the only person in the conflict who isn't a slave to the result. As you move through the world, you must realize that you are an energetic architect. Every word you speak and every thought you hold is a brick in the reality you are building. If you want a life of peace, you must build it with the energy of peace. This means practicing energetic hygiene. Just as you wash your hands to prevent the spread of disease, you must wash your spirit of the day's conflicts. Do not take the energy of a boardroom battle home to your family. Do not take the energy of a traffic jam into your work. Learn to reset your frequency through breath, movement, or silence. By maintaining a clean, energetic field, you ensure that you are always meeting the present moment with fresh eyes and a clear heart, rather than the residue of yesterday's wars. The final stage of this journey is becoming an energetic master. An energetic master is someone whose presence is so refined and so stable that conflict literally cannot exist in their vicinity. It is said that when a master walks into a room where people are arguing, the argument simply stops. Not because the master said anything, but because their frequency is so compelling that it overwrites the lower frequencies of anger and ego. This is the highest goal of the human experience. To be so aligned with the universal energy of truth and love that you become a walking sanctuary. In this state, you realize that your energy didn't just decide the conflict, it transcended it. You see that conflict was never the problem, it was merely a symptom of a lack of alignment. In the end, your life is a masterpiece of your own making, and your energy is the brush. If you want a life of harmony, paint with the colors of grace, certainty, and presence. Do not let the world dictate your palette. Stand tall in your own light, hold your frequency with unwavering resolve, and remember, the world does not change through force. It changes through resonance. You are the frequency that decides the future. Choose wisely.